make my screen a little bigger.
Okay.
There you go.
It does seem like we are going out live. And
Right.
okay, so thanks again, everybody. You are tuning in to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community. This is a special Reinventing the Tattoo History podcast with Marvin Moskowitz from the Bowery in New York City. And we're very excited, so stay tuned. I'm going to take over the screen and do a little bit of an introduction while the live stream is going out. This is a perfect time to let us know in any of the chat rooms if this is working for you, or to share it around. And if you're on Facebook and you're watching, then tag Marvin, because I know that he's got a big Facebook. I'm always catching your Facebook posts and whatnot.
My nephew told me to cool down on my political posts, but it's not me.
It's interesting. So I'd love to actually talk about that a little bit, and I have gotten myself in some trouble. But first, that's the good teaser. Let's run this intro for reinventing, and yeah. So let's see. This is a live stream on the 14th of March. Like I said, if this is working for you, let us know if it's working in the chat room or tag somebody. This is Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and even the curious are all encouraged to join in these live streams, to watch the replays, to ultimately inspire each other and to create better art and tattoos together. We are beaming out live like 5 days a week now, and with your help and the help of all the streamers, have created a network of tattoo shows that are all pretty awesome, full of authentic, great characters. And there's a couple different ways that you could be checking it out. You are, probably watching live. If you're catching this live, either on the YouTubes or the Facebooks, or maybe even the LinkedIn. If you're watching a recording, it could be, either on audio in the podcast store or on the Roku, or maybe through the mobile app. If you do a search for Reinventing the Tattoo in any of those platforms, that is either of the app stores, Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, Reinventing the Tattoo, or on Roku, it's amazing, go to Roku. It's a Reinventing the Tattoo channel, and it's basically replaying all of this stuff 24/7. The YouTube channel, the Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel, is growing, and we stream out and have all the recordings there. And then we do the Facebooks, but it's social media, so it's designed to, we try to broadcast to the social medias, but try not to get completely addicted to it. It's tough though. And as I was laughing about with Marvin earlier, sometimes I know that Facebook puts his posts up in front of me because I want to chat and catch up on that conversation. Anyways, point is, the latest reinventing schedule, as well as ways to get notifications and whatnot, is to go to reinventingthetattoo.com. And right there is a full, like I said, it's got the schedule of all the upcoming events, and it has all of the replays there. If it is 2 o'clock in the morning and you want one more thing to keep you up for hours, you could go right there. And actually, if you go to reinventing247.com, it brings you to that channel. So you could watch the art jams, the paint nights, the Hablamos de Arte. We have a whole channel that's in Spanish. Tales from the Castro, straight from San Francisco. That's LGBTQ plus POC, everybody. It's all the amazing, interesting stories that are coming straight from the Castro. It's crazy the amount of, like I said, shows that are out there. Well, thank you very much for supporting it, everybody. If you are a tattooer and you go to reinventingthetattoo.com, not only is there a ton of courses, but you could also, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little link that says, talk about your goals. If you click off the check boxes, then you'll have a custom list of emails sent to you every couple of days to help you with both free lessons, as well as some lessons that are inside of the different courses throughout the Reinventing the Tattoo network. Okay, what time is it? How am I doing? Okay, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. We are hitting up real world events. April 11th to the 12th is an inspiring tour in New Hampshire at the Sam O'Reilly House. These are, you could go to inspiring.tours. They're very limited, 5 to 10 people for 4 days. This time it's Sean Barber doing painting. Nick Baxter, well, everybody's basically going to be painting. for 3.5 days. There's seminars, then there's a collaborative tattoo that's happening between Nick Baxter and Sean Barber. Actually, if you're interested in being that client, it's going to be an out of control tattoo. Get in touch. The art spots sold out within 3 days. It was crazy. So get on the wait list. Inspiring.tours. It's the only .com we don't have. May 20th to the 22nd is Hell City, Columbus, Ohio. Hellcity.com. We're gonna have a big reinventing room there. We'll also have a day of seminars at Inkmania. That's in St. Pete, Florida, right outside of where the Dolly Museum is. That's June 10th to the 12th. Phil Holt, Stefano will be in person there for Reinventing Day. Guy Aitchison will be beaming in. And then there's going to be a big art jam on stage. Let's see, July 29th to the 31st is the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, and there's plenty more coming. But I want to talk history here. Quick shout out to the sponsors. They make these streams happen for free for you. Raw Pigments, rawpigments.co. They are acrylic-free pigments, so they don't dry out in the cup. Lauren does a lot of interviews, so you could check out some of her interviews. Do a search for Raw Pigments, video artists, all that. WorldTattooEvents.com is the most comprehensive tattoo website that has to do with tattoo conventions, and Alex is very busy now with all of the reschedules, but I think there's like 40 conventions happening worldwide now, so it's starting to open up again. WorldTattooEvents.com. Then let's see, D-Lies Pro is a healing wrap that is breathable, so it's not like the saran wrap is designed to not breathe. D-Lies Pro's designed to breathe, but the oxygen to let the skin heal, but not all the icky stuff. Dermalize worldwide. D-Lies Pro United States. Thank you for international copyright laws for making our job that much trickier. So do a search for Dermalize and videos. You'll see all the videos about it. D-Lies Pro in the United States. TattooNOW. I'm a computer geek for tattooers. You'll hear more from me because I'm going to be doing this interview. I'm pretty excited. And then Guy Aitchison, GuyAitchison.com. He is the inspiration behind and the founder of Reinventing the Tattoo, both the professional development, book, curriculum, course, platform, as well as this network. And we're here inspiring each other to get better tattoos, because not only has he inspired us, but he's inspiring us to inspire each other. Okay. Whew. Positive reviews on the channels, please. It's what helps it grow. Constructive criticism is more than welcome. Send it to management@reinventingthetattoo.com. We are also interested in some sponsors, or if you want to have us come to your shop. Instead of hopping into the background, I'm actually going to stay in the interviewee chair here. Marvin, thank you so much for joining us. This history is so important, and obviously you have an amazing place in it.
Well, the place.
Uh-oh, I lost your audio. I lost your audio.
I'm on.
You're back.
Okay. I don't know. I said week, whatever. Anyway, and since my uncle died, I'm the last man standing in the tattoo lineage of the family. None of my cousins went into the business. I was just the only one. So it's kind of, I'm it.
And it starts like,
the experiences. I'm it.
Well, and it starts way back.
Way back. Well, my grandfather, Willie Moskowitz, bought a barbershop in 1929, 1930. I have 1930 as the starting thing. And it was downstairs, underground. On the Bowery at that time, the tattooers, for some reason, worked out of barbershops. And my grandfather bought this barbershop, and he rented the back room to what they call transient tattooers.
Uh-huh.
Show up, they wouldn't show up. One of them was Al Neville. Now Al Neville was the guy that gave Norman Rockwell the tattoo machine and a little price for that painting of the sailor. And then, at that time, Charlie Wagner in the 30s, late 20s, actually tattooed at 16 Gallery.
Okay.
And my grandfather's barbershop was 12 Bowery. And after
So they're like right there, and
Yeah.
and this is where
So-
the black eye, especially. I saw, or I
Yes.
read about the black eye makeup.
And my father and uncle told me that my grandfather had if you go online, there's actual ceramic fancy leech jars that they would keep leeches in, the barbers and stuff. And who knows who else. And a guy would come in with a black eye and they put the leech on the bruise and it would suck the blood out. Then they would pancake makeup to cover everything else up. But that's black eyes made to look natural. It was an old barber's trick. Tattooers, a few tattooers did it, but it was mainly barbers.
Sure, and then you were saying Charlie Wagner was.
Oh, well, Charlie Wagner was friends with my grandfather. Found the Bowery. He loved the Bowery. In fact, at one time, the family, when my father and his sister and my uncle were kids, lived on Mott Street on the Lower East Side, which wasn't far from the barber shop. You froze up. Could you still hear me?
Oh, I can. Yes, I think you had a call coming in, maybe.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
That's on the phone. Let me shut this phone off.
No, maybe not.
Oh, anyway, let me shut it off anyway.
Now I have some of these pictures here. I'll fire up too.
They lived on Mott Street. My grandfather never wanted to leave the Bowery. He was friends with everybody, and that's how we met Charlie Wagner. And that whoever he was tattooing at the time figured a mid-30s. Didn't show up, so Wagner put my grandfather into the tattooing business. This was taken in 1961.
Okay, this is later then, way later.
Well, my grandfather is on the left. He was sick at this time with Parkinson's. It was no longer a barbershop. And that's my uncle standing up. My father's about, 61. He was born in 38. So it's probably about 23, 24. And the guy sitting is Dick Hyland, who in the 1930s, Ripley's, believe it or not, was in his box or whatever you call it as the human autograph. All those things you say with names of people. If he met you, he put your name on, or fighters, baseball players. And he used to work the front for my grandfather and then my father and uncle.
Awesome.
And this was taken by a photographer for Guy Aitchison. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was a well-known author. He wrote for the New York Times and many publications. In fact, he has a book, A Serendipitous Journey, which is about New York. And one of the photos in it is my uncle and Dick Hyland, and somebody, Virginia Ando, a tattooist, she just sent me from the New York Times a big piece that Guy Aitchison wrote about tattooing, and there's a picture of my father. This was in 1959, and a picture of my father tattooing in it.
Oh, amazing. Now, I mean, it's got to be really, I mean, I guess, was it normal to kind of grow up in this, I mean, again, it's not even legendary, it's like super legendary.
Yeah, but nobody thought that then.
Yeah.
We had a good childhood. My father got us out of Brooklyn. We moved to Long Island in 63 or 64. It may have been 64 when Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston in the first round. That's my go-to date for certain things. I'm a big boxing fan, so that's my thing to remember some things. And into a beautiful neighborhood, brand new neighborhood built in the woods and stuff. We were like the third family that moved in. And as people moved in, after school, during the summer, there were about 30, 40 kids looking for something to do all the time, and we could roam in the woods for hours. But I would go as I got old. I was about 11 then, and I would go to the shop on a Saturday night. And as I got old, I started making the needles and putting the machines together. But that's as I got older. When I was a kid, I had a great time. Now, this is the shop on Long Island. The first shop, without dispute, established shop on Long Island. I ain't going to say no names, but there's people that have tried and dispute that they, for years, that they were the first established shop. They tried to dispute my family history. Out of jealousy or what, I don't know. They're trying to get a timeline of established shops now, and believe it or not, the guy doing it had to be reminded to put my father and uncle first. He left them off the list.
Crazy. It's and now I was seeing a video of I think it was of Stan talking about getting the laws changed.
Well, there's two places: New York City and Long Island. New York City, well, everybody knows about the ban, the 1963 ban. The tattooers won the case at first. In fact, the article I was just telling you about that Guy Aitchison wrote for the New York Times mentioned that at that time they won. The tattooers prevailed. And but according to my father and uncle, they had gone up to the mayor's office for something. They were told the mayor wants it out, wants tattooing. So they ended up losing the case. And on Long Island, they were the first shop. But nobody opened up for 10 years after them. There's all kinds of pretenders trying to say they opened up in 64. You know, the guy they worked for or this or that. Nobody opened up to Pete Poulos in the early 70s, 71, 1970, and then everybody else, the domino effect. But their horns were busted for years by the health department in Suffolk County to try and put them out of business. Every time a hepatitis case. But my father was lucky that he was friends with the health inspector at the time. Scott, his name was. And in fact, they belonged to the same health club, Jim. And he would investigate it. And it was never, he always found a route to the hepatitis outbreak, a restaurant, a snack stand.
Sure.
In fact, this particular health inspector, they were on Great Neck Road, which was a black neighborhood, off the beaten path, but they still had lines of people to tattoo. It was a bad neighborhood, and one day he came by and says, "I don't want you guys in this neighborhood no more. Let's take a ride." And he found them the shop on 137 Sunrise Highway, where they were for 40 years. So sometimes you gotta be friends with people. But after this Scott went, they came down and always tried to bust their hump. You can't keep the inks here. You got to do this or that. You know how it goes. They had to hire lawyers. Once they had to buy, this is back in the early 60s, a $200 plate gala for the Republican Party.
Put in the money.
Off their back, and it lasted for a year. They weren't bothered for a year.
You know, now they, they still call up. They're still, still somewhat in action. Hey, we do have another reinventing host or historian, Jay from the Northwest Tattoo Museum, and I'm going to bring him in. So he's able to help. Help prod me. I'm one of those guys that I'm learning the history. Because I know some of it, but
if you want to put that Indian head again later, I'll tell you about that.
Yeah, I'll put it up right now.
Okay.
Yeah. This is voila. Yeah. So this was.
This is on longtime frontman and bouncer, Gary Swass. The picture doesn't really show how big his arm is, but that's a chest piece on his arm.
Huh.
And he also, as I grew older, would tell me about the brawls and stuff that in those days, early 60s, the pagans and others, wise guys, tough guys, would try to start with them. And let's just say they went out like a whimpering puppy.
Yeah, it looks like it does look pretty big. I mean, obviously in person, it's
that was done by
there you go. Still not hearing anything.
Oh, we hear you, Jay.
Oh, do I need a headphones? Damn it, I need headphones.
Hold on one second here. I'll okay. I threw Jay on mute here while he gets his text situated here.
This particular bouncer, they would meet before work or after work, someplace. They were having lunch, and I don't know the guy's name, a professional wrestler. Something happened, and they got in a fight. This Gary Swass and the wrestler, and Gary dragged the guy across one of those blue stone parking lots with the little rocks and pebbles.
Oh.
But I'll tell you a story that's all the stories about my father and uncle and all the battles and stuff. Years later, my uncle would say, these guys glorify it. But we were young kids with families trying to feed our families. There was nothing glorious about it. We got arrested sometimes. We came out home with bruises. We never came out second, but still, it was no glory.
Right now, it's weird to see how the legends carry on, and again, the good stuff that has come from it all, and then but again, it's
they had the area for 10 years from 64 to 74 to themselves. They made a fortune, and up until they retired, they made a lot of money. And this was done by my father, Walter Moskowitz.
Awesome. What year?
Early 60s.
This is the 60s, yeah, sweet.
This is in the Great Neck Road Shop before they moved to Sunrise Highway. What happened is my father, the handwriting was on the wall. By 59, according to that article I was quoting, they already had gone and survived the first onslaught to ban it. So they went out to Farmingdale in Suffolk County, Long Island, and they rented a room in back of back a room of a store next to an ice cream shop. And how I know that, when I would a kid and go with my father, he always stopped there and we got ice cream to tell me that the guy makes his own hot fudge. And then he would tell me about the Farmingdale. Then in about 60, and they would only go there like a couple of nights a week, but about 1961, they went to the Great Neck Road Shop, a regular tattoo shop. And they still tattooed in the city, and they came out a few nights a week to tattoo on Long Island. And then by 64, when everything was done, it was full time on Long Island. My other uncle, their brother-in-law, Stanley Farber, known as Flatbush Stan.
See in here?
He had the last legal shop in New York City when the ban finally came down. He had a shop on Flatbush Avenue, and among the people that worked for him at one time or another was Tony the Pirate Cambria, Jack Dracula, and Tony Polito.
Awesome. Hey, I'm going to click on some. Sorry, I don't mean to jump around.
No, it's all right.
But I love some of these pictures, and I have them fired up here. I want to make sure that we don't miss them here. So this is
the number 12 Bowery shop, and if you could see, this is the early 30s, I believe. This is a census photo, and if you could see, it says Williams Barbershop, haircuts, shave. Now this was downstairs. You went downstairs to tattoo. This was the shop he bought in 1930. And this is the shop later years when my aunt actually and my uncle were grown, would go down. My aunt remembers playing with the Chinese kids on the Bowery. My uncle remembers in later years, he was still a kid, going down to 16, because that's where Millie Hull bought Charlie's shop.
Amazing. Now, do you remember, like, I mean,
that shop I don't remember.
Well, you don't remember, but I'm wondering if you remember, like, some of the stories, some of the.
These stories.
Do you know how they picked? Do you know how they picked the place, or how do they find it?
How they find what?
The spot. Like, was it? They just.
I don't know. My grandfather. Yeah. They were kids. My father was born in 1938. My uncle was 5 years older, and my aunt was 5 years older than him. So it was a barber shop that it was a. I have Carmine Nyson, who I consider one of the top tattoo historians, got a lot of the stuff from my family, and he bought this shop 2930. We're not sure, but when he came to this country, he came 5 years after his father. He worked in, like, a year before, or 2 years before, he worked in a shop with his father as a tailor, and then he became a barber, and that's when he met my grandmother, and her brother was a barber, so I figured that's how he became a barber. But the stories about him, he would be, when he started tattooing about the mid-30s or so, he would give a guy a hot shave half the face, or cut a guy's hair, and in the middle, somebody would come in for a tattoo. He would put the hot towel on the guy, go do the tattoo, come back after he was done, forget what he was doing, and send the guy out either with half a shave, half a hair. I mean, and at around this time, my grandmother, also in the mid-30s, made illegal booze in a bathtub on Ludlow Street, and would sell it to the bums. I hate to use that word, but I'll use the homeless instead, because a lot of these guys suffered from alcoholism or drug addiction. In the summer, they would get picked up by the people that ran the bungalow colonies and stuff. Dry out and be the handyman or whatever, then come back to the Bowery with 2 pockets full of cash, and then go back to their ways. Right.
It's a tough one. And I imagine that, again, sometimes it's, doing the research for a lot of these interviews, it's fun to look at footage, and some of the videos that they have.
I disappeared from this. You can still see me?
Oh, yeah, we see you in the corner when we're looking at these tattoos.
Oh, okay. This was found by Richie Montgomery, who is a long time, well-known, I could call him a legend from tattooing on Long Island. And he found a guy with this and done by my grandfather in the early 40s for $3.
Awesome.
There's a couple others I didn't show you. One, he knew somebody in a nursing home, and he went to visit him, and he saw this hula girl. And he said, not only did the guy tell him who did it by name, but he knew where to shop, the shop, the address, the whole 9 yards. So
awesome. Yeah, it was an experience I certainly remember clearly.
Yes.
What do we have? So Clayton, who's
Clayton Patterson? You know Clayton Patterson?
I don't know. I was excited to.
Okay, Clayton Patterson is a legend on the Lower East Side, New York City. I would say the tattoo world. He spent a good part of his life on the Lower East Side, documenting life on the Lower East Side. He's one of the first guys to get a video camera when they were big and bulky, and walk the streets with his video camera and his regular camera. and take pictures. He asked the people if he could take pictures of them. He documented. In fact, I don't know if you ever heard of the Tompkins Square riots, Park riots. You heard of them?
Yeah, I have. I'm a 47-ish, but I'm a
His video actually put a couple of dirty during the riots for violence, brutality. They actually arrested him, and he had to go to court to get his video back. And then with the tattooing in Hungary, there's a tattoo convention he founded, Wild Side or something. I don't know if you heard of it.
Nope, but I do have his website up here, I believe. Meet Clayton, yeah.
It's a big convention. He was one of the founders, and he go back every year. But health, he can't no more.
This is his site here.
He knows everybody. He started with caps years and years ago. He was one of the guys that helped run the Roseland Ballroom Convention.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is his wife, who was also an artist. In fact, my nephew just bought a coat, a jacket by him for like $500.
Whoa, nice. Awesome. I remember the Roseland Ballroom was definitely one of those conventions I used to hit up.
It was one of the best. But Clayton, the tattoo world, he knows everybody and everything. Artists. One of his good friends was this guy, Clayton Patterson, a Juilliard taught musician who scored a lot of big movies, composed music for movies and other avenues and stuff. The guy just passed away, but it was Clayton had a website radio show, and I did some of the shows with him, and I was lucky enough to do one with Clayton Patterson.
I think I saw it. Is that the 6-part YouTube?
I don't know what he has on YouTube. I hasn't gone there, but a talented guy who got interested in tattooing because of, I can't think of the guy's name. He tattooed in a building across from Tom DeVita. One of these unknown guys who was known back in the underground 60s days.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, and it seems like there was a fair amount of, obviously there was a fair amount of like crossover and like, I guess, was it your generation or was it your father and uncles that
crossover?
Like the artsy people were picking it up, and like as opposed to and the museums and stuff, like in books, like there's books and real researchers and
I'll tell you when. Let me think. You had tattooers writing books. Lyle Tuttle would write books about like Charlie Wagner and stuff. But not Charlie Wagner, Bill Jones. You know who Bill Jones was?
I don't know.
It's called, you ever hear of the Jonesy machines?
Yeah, of course.
Well, okay. Jones. He made them for a short while in the back of my grandfather's shop.
Marvin, I think we lost you again. Marvin, we lost you.
But real in-test books? Oh, go ahead.
We just got you back. Marvin, we lost your audio for that last little run.
It's on now?
It is on now, though. There we go.
Okay. The real research and books written came about maybe during the late 70s, but when Mike McCabe wrote the book, An Urban Legend, Tattooing an Urban Legend, New York City.
Yeah, it was 90.
It seems all the books
sold
really
out.
went into real research. You know, with people that went to college or had degrees in genealogy. I mean, Mike McCabe put the 50s tattooers on the map. unfortunately, all those everybody in Mike McCabe's book are gone.
So I have Jay from the Northwest Tattoo Museum. Hey, Jay.
Hello.
Hey, Jay.
Sitting down here in my workshop building tattoo machines. So kind of morning out here on the West Coast.
Jay's been helping us flesh out
the.
we have the History of Electric Tattooing course in the Reinventing curriculum now. And he's been gracious enough to upload tons of info, but awesome.
Yeah, I'm working on some more as we speak too. So
All right.
everybody stay tuned for that.
So I guess this might be an interesting question. So Marvin, like clearly in New York City, that's the geography where the family's from. What was it? What was the interaction with the West Coast? Were tattooers traveled
When they were in New York City on the Bowery? Very few reached out to the West Coast. This is all way later history. Maybe the 70s, mid 70s, everybody when the conventions came on. Basically, in my opinion, you had guys like Tony Polito, Philadelphia Eddie, those type of guys would reach out to other tattooers, go around. But as a whole, speaking as a whole, I would say the late 70s, 80s, that's when people start crossing over to this one and that one. Flash would be drawn, the books were coming out, so people knew who they were.
I remember when
going back to Mike McCabe, very little people knew who most of those guys in the book were.
Who were they? What was the Mike McCabe? I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, the Urban Art. It was about all the 1950s tattooers.
Came out at Philadelphia Eddie's 99 show, if I remember
99
right.
or 98?
It was Eddie's Philadelphia show.
Yes.
It might have been 98. Let's see. 98,
I don't know. He had two shows.
98, 99. I think he did. Wait, I did them all. 99, 2000, 2001, 2002.
Oh, I know these books, of course.
But, it's sold out.
He had the two of them. He had at the airport. 2 or 3 of them were at the airport.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
They were in like Cherry Hill. It wasn't even Philadelphia, really, if I remember right. Or that might have been the
outskirts or something. That's not the book.
No, it's sold out completely. I don't think you can get a copy of that book if you tried, or
no,
it's not a lot of money.
There it is. He's just showing it. He had the wrong book up. That's the one.
Did you find one for sale?
No.
Nope, out of print.
Yeah. Impossible.
Voila. Well, there we go. Awesome.
And my father, well, actually, my uncle did the evil. He's the first in the book. And when he asked everybody else who interviewed, one of Mike's questions to Molson was, tell me about the Moskowitz brothers. In fact, that book backs me up. I used to tell people that Huck Spaulding worked for my grandfather in the late 40s. And if, oh, you bullshit, this and that. But Huck Spaulding has a chapter in the book, and he says it, that he worked for my grandfather in the late 40s.
Well, a lot of people went through your grandfather's shop in New York.
Yeah.
Just about anybody who is everybody, well, besides like Wagner's shop and, the other big one. But I mean, it seems to what I know, and I'm not huge on the East Coast history, but from what I know of it, and then like we're talking about Carmen, and from what I've read of her stuff, it seems like just about everybody who is anybody did go through your grandpa's shop, which is really cool.
I was saying, my other uncle, Flatbush Stan, their brother-in-law, Stanley Farber, his shop was on Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn. And amongst the people that tattooed for him at one time or another was Tony Polito, the Pirate Cambria, and Jack Dracula.
Wow. Wow.
I have a
That's
Jack
cool.
Dracula story if you're interested.
That would be interesting to hear. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I was a kid in the early 60s, 10, 11, and Jack Dracula was working for Stanley Farber at the time, my uncle, and my father would visit him. So he took me one day, and I saw Jack with those tattooed face of his, and if my father grabbed my arm, I'd still be running down Flatbush Avenue. I mean, menacing. And then another time we went down, he was very talented, Dracula. He was making out of plywood life-size versions of all the Warner Brother characters. He had a Bugs Bunny there all painted up.
Wow.
Elmer Fudd, beautiful things. And of course, this got to be 63, 64. I was born in 55. So I was a kid. Actually, I was a little kid. So this had to be the early 60s, 7, 8 years old. And I wanted one, of course. And my father offered Dracula at that time $20 for one of them. And the fucking guy wouldn't sell it. I was crying and I'm a kid.
Oh, no.
So the moral of the story is, fuck Jack Dracula. But you know what? He was an interesting person. My father and uncle were tight with him. I believe my uncle did the eagle on his chest. My father gave him some tattoos, I think the Frankenstein or something. And he always wanted to be a sideshow guy. That's why he got his face. But my father and uncle wouldn't do it. And some people claim Freddie did it. Some people claim Tony Cambria did it. But I've never heard a definitive answer. So somebody else. My father used to go with him on the subway, and Dracula had a full-length black coat with a hood, and they would go on the subway and try and spook people. Dracula would quickly shuffle over close to them and leer over them. So
nice. Someone from the chat room here, Joshua, says he's holding his copy right now of Mike's book.
Oh, he's lucky to have one. That's awesome.
It's a great book.
Uh-oh.
I gotta love the internet.
Excuse me?
You gotta love the internet. You're back. We just lost you for a sentence.
No, I'll just use an example. I'm a big boxing fan.
I hope.
And when I go on some of the boxing sites, people will bring up, nobody remembers James J. Jeffries. Nobody remembers this guy. These guys are dead over 100 years. It's the march of time. And it's like with
sad that not all of it got wrote down. It's sad that so many got lost.
Who thought? My father and uncle were always of the mindset you could be thrown out of tattoo and out of your business at any time. Lucky for them, they went to Long Island. And there was no tattooers on Long Island, so they made out very well. So they always had them, it was a living for them. There was no glory in tattooing. It was a living to feed, like I said before, your family. And
a rock star thing like today.
There was a lot of trouble. You had the pagan motorcycle gang. You had other gangs, tough guys, this and that. But they all learned when you went into that tattoo shop, you were very nice and polite.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. You brought up Philadelphia Eddie not too long ago. Care to share some stories? He's
yeah, please. Eddie was a great friend.
Philadelphia Eddie and my father were tight. In fact, my mother says that I don't know who his son was at the time or Eddie's wife at the time, but they used to socialize with them, and a couple of times we took the kids to the movies and stuff.
Was it Marguerite?
I you know what? You're going back to the early 1960s.
Okay.
my father hit the Bowery more or less 54, 55. 54, I believe he was 16 and married already. And I was on the way. So that's when he started tattooing full time on the Bowery. My uncle started about 5 years before him.
Wow.
And in between, I believe, I can't say for sure if my grandfather didn't show their brother-in-law first or second in the family, whatever. Now, what were we talking about? I'm 60.
Philadelphia
Eddie.
Eddie. A great subject.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eddie, of course, loved my father and uncle. I remember we used to visit, actually it was Freddie, we used to visit on Coney Island, and Eddie would be there sometimes and stuff, but I'm a young kid, so I don't remember Eddie that much. I remember in older years when every time I saw him, he would tell me the story how he met my father and uncle for the first time. You want me to repeat the story?
Oh, please.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
My father and uncle were tattooing on the Bowery. And Eddie, I think he was the same age as my father. At that time, they must have been both 16, 17 years old. And maybe in their early 20s or late teens. Anyway, so he finds the shop, Eddie, and he goes in and he gets two birds on it. He says, my father was like standing on the outside the building and asked Eddie, you want to get a tattoo? He came to the right place. So Eddie went in and he gets two birds on his chest. And when he's done, Eddie says, hey, one's higher than the other. And my father smacks him in the back of the head and says, kid, don't you know one's a male, one's a female? And then Eddie says, well, where's my change? And he smacks him on the head again. And he says, it's on the chest. It's extra money. And then Eddie says, your uncle came out of the back and says, you fucking around with my brother? And he says, I guess it was time to leave, he says. But then they became lifelong friends. Then they became lifelong friends. You know, what happened is when they had the ban, all these tattooers went their own way.
Eddie went to Philadelphia then, I think. That was part of the deal.
He actually went to Chicago, I believe, first. And
yeah,
what he told me is that tattooers in Chicago was run by the mob. You had to give them a piece of the action.
But Dan Peace, I was talking to him, and he was talking about how Tex Peace went and worked in Chicago, and that they had he was a young man, and they his father took him into the shop, and he had to use the bathroom. He said he was just a little boy, and he had to use the bathroom. So his dad took him around the corner to go to the bathroom, and behind a big two-way mirror, there was that the sailors used to check their clothes and everything. And there was a guy sitting back there with a Tommy gun. I thought that's and he said the same thing. You had to pay the mob off in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, my father and uncle were going to go with Eddie to Chicago. And what stopped that, my father was really serious. My mother, what was she, 21, 22 at the time, with two kids, and all her family lived in Brooklyn. We lived in Brooklyn at the time. My uncle lived 4 houses down. My mother said, I'm not leaving my family and everything. So that canceled the trip. My mother used to say, she's the boss, my father's the horse.
Nice. So we have a request from the chat room here. Joshua was asking if you have any Blackie stories.
Ooh.
No, everybody forgets I was a very young kid there. Blackie stayed in Brooklyn underground. And the only story got at that Eddie's convention for the book signing, Blackie had died, I think, a week before, but he was going to come up there. But I don't have Blackie stories. They were a separate family, I think there were, correct me, Jay, if I'm wrong, 3 or 4 brothers that tattooed.
Yeah, that's something I don't recollect.
The last name, it's an Italian last name.
So
I can't think of it off the bat. You know what? Every time I do these interviews, I always say I'm going to write things down to be prepared. And then as I'm writing one or two things down, I say, fuck it, I'll just wing it.
Yeah.
But there were 3 or 4 brothers. I can't think of their name. But you know what it is? A lot of those Bowery tattooers, my opinion, from the information I got and for what my father says, kept to themselves. They saw each other on the Bowery or visited a shop here or there. But, nobody was in it for the glory, for the passion in those days. This was strictly a way to make money. Feed your family, pay for your rent, your house, whatever.
Right.
So, it's not as glamorous. It's not, and Jay will back me up. They weren't brain surgeons then. They weren't movie stars then.
Yeah, it was definitely not a rock star thing, unless you were in the circus and or something along those lines. And I imagine that was a little more on the rock side end, that rock star side.
Yes.
And the guys who actually tattooed and were, circus attractions. I thought it was interesting that you mentioned Millie Hull's place. She was one of those people that was kind of a, you would say kind of of her time was kind of.
Well, from what my
rock
father and uncle told me, and from what I gather, she bought Charlie's Wagner's shop at 16 Bowery.
Yeah, that's what I've gathered as well. Yeah.
And in fact, my uncle Bowery Stan used to say he remembers as a kid going. Don't forget they still lived at Ludlow Street, wasn't far from the shop, and he would go and watch Millie Hull tattoo.
Oh wow.
Anyway, in fact, her and Charlie, I gather, were an item at one time because there's pictures of Charlie tattooing her when she was a young woman, and
Well, she was when she was like all tattoo artists, it seems like, back then didn't do well in, with school and said, screw this, I'm going on my own kind of thing. And she was a burlesque dancer in the circus. And then one of the Barkers told her, you can make upwards of $80 a week if you go get tattooed and become a tattooed lady. And so she went and sought out Charlie Wagner, since he was considered, at the time, one of the best to go get that done on the East Coast. And so, and then later went back and learned from Wagner. Whether or not they were an item, who knows? But
she had there's a picture. I copied it once. It's on my computer that went dead. I don't know how to get my pictures out of it. Of one of the shop, and this particular picture had a sign: "Come and get tattooed." And not by some old washed up old man.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. She had a big long spiel on there that
Yes,
that said all her things. Don't go to a would be
washed up old man.
Washed up old men. There's actually a picture in the little article that I wrote about her in the history section, the Reinventing History. That actually has a picture of that sign, and I quoted that because I thought that was just you walk up to the front of the shop and there it is, right there for you, and
it's a lot of history. Mike McCabe started all this. Carmen Nissen, she has a college degree in genealogy, so she knows the in and outs and she'll find one item and somehow find all the things connected to that one item.
Yeah, she's great at that. She really is an incredible researcher. I'll tell you.
Sorry, one more time. What was her name? I want to fire her up here in the background.
Who?
And get the notes. What was her name?
Carmine Nyson.
Yes, she's in Yakima, Washington. Yeah, she's in Yakima. She's about I don't know, about 2.5 hours from me.
So Carmen.
She's
I didn't get the spelling.
In fact, she knew
you spelled it right. Nyssen.
Yes.
Yep.
Got it.
she's a great lady too. She was a really great person. I've gone and visited her.
She's been taken advantage a lot of, though.
Yeah, and that's what I've heard. And it's like,
That's the tattoo
God,
business.
yeah, it is. It's kind of cutthroat, and there's a lot of bullshit. Chuck Eldridge and I were just talking about that, and how the story changes every there it is, Buzzworthy Tattoo. There's some great articles on there. There's some wonderful information.
My father and uncle.
Everything, every generation, the story's changed, and every time.
Of course. I mean, I would say Charlie Wagner must have had a public relations man, because just about 99 and 9/10 photos you see of him are posed photos.
Right. Oh yeah. Every picture I have of him is posed. Post photos. Yeah, absolutely. You're talking about Mike McCabe and
He's terrific.
Eddie and all that. We were on that subject, and one thing I like to always use as an example, because history, all this stuff needs to be written down because it's being lost. But Eddie did one thing that I encourage everybody to do. He wrote those books, and
that audio book.
Well, and he did it in print too. And what a great way to leave a little bit of something behind, history behind, is to actually sit down and he get ghostwrit that. Eric Fimmel was the guy who wrote it all down and formatted it. So Eddie just talked into a microphone. All of Eddie's books.
Oh, yes.
And that was, I think everybody, Chuck Eldridge and I were talking about that too, is people ought to just sit down with a recorder.
That was with the last of the Bowery Scab Merchant audio book, that was my kid brother's idea. It was the last year of my father's life. We knew he had a year or less. And he bought all this recording equipment, and he recorded if you listen to it, you can hear my father's voice it's a 2-disc audio book. You can hear my father's voice getting weaker and weaker. And he got all this stuff and all this info. It took my brother 5 years to edit everything. It could have been much more. He could have got the Brooklyn guys, Tony Polito and stuff, but he was afraid that word would get out and, I don't know, somebody would undercut him. But it came out pretty good.
I'm looking at, this is the last of the Bowery Scab Merchants. If you do a search for that.
They could actually buy it from my website, BoweryTattoo.com.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect.
That one's nice and easy.
That's way better. way better here.
I got some.
And actually, I suppose this is, I hate to have a hard out, but I hope that maybe you'll have some time to come back. Maybe we could take a quick tour of the website and then, perfect.
What, are we running out of time?
It's good to leave people wanting more, but maybe we could go on for another 2 stories. And then, like I said, I'll go on for as long as we can.
2 stories.
Yeah. But like I said, I hate to cut it short, but we also do have the reschedule with Mark from Needle Jig.
Oh, okay, that's good. In fact, maybe next time I could get Clayton Patterson to do it with us.
That would be amazing.
Or Ronnie Delaquilla from.
I would love to see one with Ronnie.
Well, he's from Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, but he's from Brooklyn. He started from Brooklyn. He was one of the first guys to pal around and to know Tony Polito. I'm starting to draw some flash. I got 3 sheets out of a 10-sheet set I want to do, but it's taken me about 2 years to get the 3 sheets done. My intention, as I get older and older, is getting shorter and shorter.
Not enough time.
And here we go. Here people can see the audio book here.
Could you see this book?
Hold on, let me in a second. Stop share.
It's called Off the Walls of S&W.
Oh, wow.
It was made by Anthony Civarelli. And it's a picture book of all the old flash that was in the tattoo shop and stuff.
Oh, I would love it.
That's available right
to
now.
add.
What's that?
I said that's one I'm going to have to add to my.
That's available from me through my Instagram, if you're interested. I sell it for $60, shipping included, but and you two guys are okay, I could give you a deal on it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Just contact me on Facebook.
My first the first two tattoo machines I bought, one I bought from Spalding and Rogers, which I still have, and then I bought a Black Beauty from S&W Supply.
Yeah.
And,
I just gave my nephew, he's 28, he runs the booth. I only do the Philly convention. I might do Wildwood. I'm going to try maybe, there's one in New Jersey here in Meadowlands. I'm getting old, everything's a hustle, a job now. People want to talk to you.
Oh, that was actually maybe a good one to leave on, or mostly because it's something that I used to love. And when I was first getting into tattooing, it was the New York City convention was one of the, I think it was first the Am Jam was my very first show. But, and Papillons. My first tattoo was at a Papillons. I guess they were more up in New Haven. I don't know if they were in New York, but maybe it was a Papillons on Long Island. Do you want to talk a little bit about the New York City Tattoo Convention and some of the first,
Oh, in Roseland?
Yeah.
That was the best. These conventions, you see a lot of the Facebook people that you're friends with. And nobody looks like they do in person like they do on Facebook. But that Roseland was put on by the Hells Angels. They ran one of the best conventions ever. Every tattooer was tattooing. They did it for about 5 years at Roseland, and they started it 2 years before, actually, on Long Island. And I forgot where it was. And at the first one, they gave my father and uncle the first award, Icons of Tattooing or something award that they gave every year. I can't describe it. They had a state. It was a 2-tier tattooing booth thing, 2-tier, but the top tier oversaw the bottom. The first, and they had a big stage. And you had all these strippers, circus side shows, sword swallowers, throwing darts in the guy's back. That guy that was all tattooed up, what's his name? I can't remember. He had the implants, like the lumps on each side of his head, horns or something.
There's a couple of guys that did that. Enigma.
Had the guy.
It's probably the Enigma.
Yes, and you had the guy with his face all pierced. You could barely see his face. If anybody walked in to that convention, they got a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
I took my nephew. He's 28 now, so this is when we were selling. They would give us a table to sell the audio book and other things. And I took him, he was 17, maybe 16. Maybe a little older, but it was a culture shock for him. He had no idea.
Eyes were that big when he got in there.
Oh, man. And I knew people that came just to look around, and it was like, you're part of this. They couldn't understand. Like, I have friends, they think tattooing was an easy job. They think they had a breeze through it. And I tell them, you wouldn't last 3 or 4 days in a busy tattoo shop.
It's funny, Jay, or when you talk about having recordings and audio, because when you were talking, Marvin, I was just hearing Rollo in his head in one of the documentaries being like, I found myself in a real strange crew of people.
Well,
and
for me, growing up and going to the shops with my father and uncle, nothing was strange. Nothing. It was strange at first, but I grew up and being in business. Nothing is strange. I don't care what the. I could eat ice cream out of some broad's asshole in the middle of the street, and that would be normal to me.
Sure.
Indoctrinated in the weird.
So people don't understand that.
Nice. Maybe I have one last. This might be somewhat of a cheap way out, but are there any like movies or videos that help encapsulate this? I mean, we've talked about some of the books and whatnot. I guess, I'm wondering if we could maybe leave this session on a.
Well, there's. I forgot what company it is. It's one of these stock footage and video. There's a 15-second clip, actually. It was in a newsreel of my grandfather tattooing. If I could find it, I'll send it to you.
I wonder if it was in part of that unusual occupations.
I don't know, because you could hear the overdub, and when you would go see a newsreel in a movie theater years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's a movie, The Tattooed Stranger, which in one scene they used my grandfather's barbershop, and it's a tattooing scene, but they took the actors that were tattooing out of the back room. And
awesome.
Right outside the back room. Tattoo movies, of course, you got The Illustrated Man. Everybody's making books on
the creepy tattoo movie, Tattoo, with remember the movie Tattoo with Bruce Dern and
you know what?
Maud
I never
Adams?
saw The Illustrated Man. I never went to see. I was when I'm out of my tattoo shop. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to see it.
Fair enough.
Talking about it all day.
Yeah, I could leave on this will be my last. I've been doing a lot of these, and I don't tattoo, right? So it's like for 25, almost. I guess it's 30 years. I got my first tattoo 30 years ago. 25 years I've been, doing stuff for the tattoo world. I was about a year ago. Sorry, just real quick.
Okay.
About a year ago, I started for like 2 or 3 days. I was like, wow, I think I may have talked about tattooing to my Phil. And but then it was the Live in the Castro podcast, right from San Francisco, and they're just another round of like rebellious, wild, and crazy, or in this particular case. And it was like, I love tattooing. It really just enables everybody and anybody to become who they want to be. And it was only 2 or 3 days where I was almost done with my fill. But I could talk about this forever. I really can. I apologize.
You miss tattooing though if you get away from it for a little while. I'll say, after my recent back surgery and not being around the shop and the museum for probably a good month and a half, I was jonesing.
When I got divorced in '88, I moved to California. I had an uncle that was a bigwig in the music industry, and I went back to college, took business math for a couple of courses. I became his office manager. But after a couple of years, I'm not a suit and tie guy, if you know what I mean. And I ended up tattooing out of a friend had Karen Carpenter's old house built up on a mountain, into the mountain. One side of the house was on the mountain. And I would go there and tattoo. I thought he was a computer guy. Turned out he was a coke dealer. But it was an experience. One of those houses, you dived into the pool outside and you came up into the living room.
Wow.
Nice.
So,
amazing.
I have a lot of stories. Boxing, California, tattooing.
Well, one of our apprentice hopefuls is hosting a series, Bridging the Gap, right? So he's like early 20s and looking for an apprenticeship. And he's doing interviews with, lots of people with experience. So like I said, we have a couple different spots where we'd love to have you back on.
I'd love to.
Awesome. And then again, and Jay's doing a full-on academic course, as far as the history is concerned. So there's, again, plenty of opportunities to pick your brain.
This course is already, I could get the video of it?
Yeah, I'll
Well,
send you a link to it. If
Yeah, it's kind of a laid out actual more what would you say, Gabe? It's more of a written
well, it
thing.
is an online it's an online course. Here, I'll do a
Yeah.
quick screen share to close out the show
new
here.
stuff. I've
yeah.
been trying to add new stuff every week, one or two things to
Yeah.
it.
Jay,
so-
it was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you too.
I'll friend you on Instagram. I'll follow you.
Yeah, sure. It's Northwest Tattoo Museum is the best one. I've got a
Yeah.
personal one, but it's just pictures of my tattoo work. So it's just,
Yeah,
it's just
I
there
got
for,
some history. I put some of the tattoo work,
oh, that's awesome.
some
Yeah,
boxing. I got a huge boxing collection, memorabilia. So I put some of that. It's like my life. What I love, it goes on Instagram.
That's cool.
Awesome.
I save all the naked pictures for somebody else.
Right, right.
Awesome. Well, here, let me show off how people could find the rest of the course here. If this is reinventingthetattoo.com, click on the Get Started Free, and we'll see right here in the middle is the History of Electric Tattooing course.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna actually sign up, but
If I have questions, I'll ask you.
perfect. And I'll send you the link directly. That was for the
Yes.
viewers. Ha.
So what was I going to say?
Right. Sign up. And
My
check it out.
Instagram is Bowery Tech. No, my Instagram is at Moskowitz Marvin.
Yeah, let me fire this up. I'll fire both of them up for you.
Marvin.
And yeah, no, actually, you got it right. We're gonna send out on a screen share of your Instagram.
Sorry, I keep looking down, building.
So this is
That's
the
me.
Instagram. Oomph. And then the website is bowerytattoo.com. Fucking
Yes.
perfect domain name. Awesome. Okay, thanks again. And I'm gonna click the button. So this is a good
Oh, wait,
time
I
to.
just wanna, Jay, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure
and,
talking to you too.
hopefully we'll talk again.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe
Absolutely. Well,
If you'll give me your phone number somehow, we'll shoot the shit.
sure.
Perfect. I'll shoot
that'd be
over
cool.
the info.
Right on.
Perfect.
Ooh.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate it. This is it really
Thanks,
does make this like the best way to spend time, learning about this shit. So I really appreciate it, and so do the viewers.